Hey everybody, welcome back to the ECG channel. My name is Reid and I'm excited to bring this EKG to you guys today. Don't forget before we get started to go into the description, download the PDF file of this exact sheet so that you can follow along, make your own notes. And while you're down there, like and subscribe if you feel up for it. So let's get started. And the first thing I like to do, like always, is take a look at the forest and the trees of the forest from our QRSs. And so let's scan through these leads and see what's going on. I'm going to look down here at lead 2 and just look through. I've got this QRS that is kind of irregular in a sense. I kind of have this beat, and then I've got a pause, and then I've got 2 beats, and then a pause, and then the same pause and 2 beats. So, we'll have to kind of tease that out and see what's going on. And maybe there's an AV block, maybe there's a sinus pause. What is causing these beats to not be regular? And so we'll kind of work through a little bit of that during the rest of this EKG. So let's just go ahead and kind of go from the start. And so let's evaluate the atrial activity. I do see in front of my QRSs, if I zoom in, I do see a P wave that does conduct to the QRS. And so any QRS that does exist has a P wave, P to QRS. And so that allows for me to think, okay, there is some type of atrial activity driving these QRSs most likely. And my P waves, they are upright in lead 1. They are upright in AVF. And so yes, this is a sinus P wave. So okay, that's good. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to maybe evaluate, are there P waves that are not conducting to QRSs, right? There's these pauses, and we said the sinus node is beating. And if I look down here, I find a lead that's got a nice sharp deflection of atrial activity and usually a more flat T wave to help. And so V1 is really helpful for that. V1 always kind of has this biphasic P wave. And so if you look in V1, you see I've got a P wave to my QRS. And then if you notice before the next P wave to QRS, I actually have extra P wave right there. So there's another P. And then we've got P QRS, and then I have a dropped P, P QRS, and then a P that doesn't conduct. So there is what it looks like from this, some type of AV block, right? Because the sinus node is beating, and some of those beats are being blocked, right? And so our AV node is blocking it. We know that some P's are conducting to QRSs and some P's are not. And so we know that by default, this cannot be a first degree block because first degrees, every P will conduct to a QRS, it will be long. This has to be a second degree AV block. Now we need to figure out what kind. And so I'm going to measure a baseline PR interval. I might zoom in on this one at V1. And I'm going to look and I'm going to see the QRS appears to start maybe on this line right here. P wave starts kind of right at the solid line. So that PR interval in this case is 4 little boxes. Each little box is 40 milliseconds. And so that is a PR interval that is 160 milliseconds. That's our PR. And so let's look at the next PR. This PR looks to be roughly the exact same, 160 milliseconds. And so now we need to figure out, we know that a second degree type 1, the PR interval should get longer, and a second degree type 2, the PR interval should stay the same and then drop. And so we need to find 2 consecutive beats. And here we have that with these 2 beats. So we said that this PR interval is 160 milliseconds. And if you look at this PR interval, this one falls on that third little line, and this one starts right around that first. And so I would say this one, similarly, is 160 milliseconds. And so our PR interval stays the same, and then it spontaneously drops. So that is a second degree AV block type 2. These are very rare to find on a good 12 lead like this. And so second degree type 2 or a Mobitz 2. And so we say that we need to designate that because it depends exactly where the block is. A Mobitz 2 is kind of infrahisian. We'd say that block is just beneath the AV node in these cells that are all or nothing. Go look at my AV block videos if you need some help with that. So we've got a second degree type 2, Mobitz 2, with anywhere from 3 to 2 conduction, right, where we have 3 P waves and 2 QRSs, or 2 to 1, so kind of variable. Okay, but we're not done yet. We need to look at the rest of this EKG and see what's going on. So QRS, let's look at the QRS duration. When I take a look at it, my QRS, if I zoom in here to lead 2, might be a little long. I would say that's maybe 140 milliseconds. We know that it's greater than 120 milliseconds, so that's a little bit wide, QRS. And so why would it be wide? Well, we think of like bundle branch blocks maybe causing wide QRS. Since I look here at V1, and I see what looks to be a little RS R prime. If you look at that little kind of RS R prime over here, and so that in V1, and especially with the slurring S waves in the lateral leads, gives us a right bundle branch block. We still need to look at our QRS axis. We see that we've got an upright QRS in lead 1, but a downgoing QRS in AVF, and so our axis is actually going up and to the left, and that's not very common with a right bundle branch block. But we do know this is our right bundle branch block, but could we have a fascicular block as well? So if you look at lead 1, we've got this QR, and in lead 3, we've kind of got this RS type pattern. And so that is very consistent with a left anterior fascicular block as well. So when you have right bundle branch block criteria, which is the RSR prime with the presence of a wide QRS in V1, and you have a left anterior fascicular block, we call this, if you combine the two, we call this a bifascicular block. And so that's a bifascicular block where it's right bundle branch plus a left anterior fascicular block. You still need to talk about which exact areas are being blocked. Look at our QT intervals. I'll pick 2 QRSs that appear to be kind of midway between each other. You know, it's hard to do that here because the QT interval is rate dependent, right? Repolarization in the ventricles occurs at fluctuating rates, and so here what I would do is I would maybe choose these 2 beats. And I don't think I've got a long PR, or a long QT, excuse me. So my QT looks good. I look for pathological Q waves. I don't see any. I look for ST or T wave abnormalities that are scary. I don't see any. I see some normal repolarization abnormalities that are occurring here in the anterior chest leads V1, V2 from that right bundle branch block. And so we get a little bit of repolarization abnormalities, but it's nothing out of the ordinary. And so let's put this all together. And what do we got? So we've got a sinus rhythm with a 2nd degree AV block, type 2, and a bifascicular block with a right bundle branch and a left anterior fascicular block. And so today's takeaways are really, when you get that 2nd degree AV block, you need to really, really measure those PR intervals. Why? Go check out my AV blog YouTube video. It's going to really help you. But 2nd degree type 1 compared to 2nd degree type 2 are treated much differently in the acute setting. There's type 2, this person right here needs an urgent pacemaker because if this block gets worse, because it's in kind of this infrahisian region here, if this block gets worse and completely blocks, they have no ability to create a junctional escape rhythm. And therefore, if the do gets worse, all they have left is that ventricular escape rhythm, which is sometimes too slow to keep people alive. So, hope this helps. Subscribe if you like these videos. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day.